My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
If you give me a few minutes, we're going to have the invocation. Let us have the invocation, please. Let's welcome Rabbi Dr. Kari Tulins. Give her a big round of applause, please.
Well, one of the surest signs of friendship is breaking bread together. So in the spirit of that friendship, I'd like to do the blessing for bread. Although ironically, of course, it is Passover right now, so I am not actually eating any bread. But we still do the blessing. So, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Amen. And that means, blessed are you, Adonai, that's the name of God that we use, for blessing us and allowing us to bring bread forth from the earth. Amen.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to switch the order around from our program and have our choir to come on, the Bloomfield High School Choir. And I would like to have Reverend Leroy Bailey III stand up. He was one of those at Bloomfield High School to help organize this maybe 18 years or so ago. So let's give him a big round of applause. Here you go. Excuse me. Here you got an extra mic. Excuse me.
Hello everyone, my name is Aubrey Bowman. I am the choral director at Bloomfield High School, and this is the Voices of Inspiration Gospel Choir, and they have been in existence for 5 years, and we're going to sing a few selections for you, and we hope you enjoy.
My soul doth magnify the Lord. Lord, my soul doth magnify the Lord. Lord, my soul doth magnify the Lord. For he has done so many wonders.
little giants.
Giants will die, the bigger they are.
the day been? If it's been okay, clap your hands. All right, we're moving right along. And I would be remiss if I didn't give credos and kudos to Donald Harris. Donald Harris Jr., who happens to be the chairman of the Board of Education here in Bloomfield, and he also serves on our State Board of Education. But Don and his wife, Dr. Martha Harris, was on the planning committee for this event. And he's away with CABE at a conference in Texas. And so we are praying for traveling mercies for him, and we know that it will be a successful trip there. But I wanted you to know that the chairman of the Board of Education had much to do with this event. Also, another person that we want to acknowledge today is Dr. Sarah Sneed. Sarah is a longtime staff member of the Harvard Foundation for Public Giving. And Sarah's mother went from labor to reward recently. And so she's not here because of the passing of her mother. So please keep Sarah in your thoughts and prayers. I've known the person who's going to come and greet us for many years. And I always joke with him because at one point in time, he's probably forgotten it, but he wanted to be a barber. And God wanted him to work on heads, but with the mind. And so he would have made an excellent barber, but hasn't he made an excellent educator? He is our superintendent, Connecticut Superintendent of the Year, and I would like for you to greet him with a rousing round of applause. Dr. James Thompson, Jr.
Ben, thank you. I totally forgot that, but thanks for reminding me. Good afternoon. I just want to let you know that it's an honor to be a part of this very important forum. Cultural competency is something we all need to be engaged in. It is really about having a profound awareness and knowledge of the students we serve so that we can more effectively educate them. And there is well-informed research to support this topic of discussion. When you look at Bloomfield's demographics, close to 90% of the students are of color, predominantly African American and those of West Indian descent. We also have an increasing number of Latino students. About 25% of the staff is comprised of people of color, one of the highest percentages in the state. And it's highlighted in this booklet that you were provided with on page 39. Public schools across the country are becoming more intentional in their efforts to recruit and retain a diverse workforce. Cultural awareness is enriched when there is a diverse workplace, especially in the leadership ranks. Clearly, there's a need for dialogue within Connecticut public schools and also schools across the country on cross-cultural awareness. There's also a need for more opportunities to enhance our knowledge about the availability of community resources to support this effort. I hope you gain valuable insights from today's program, and I just want to thank you for joining us. Continue to enjoy the program.
Well, we have with us a young man who is doing exceptional things and will do much more. and we'd like to bring him forward, Representative Bobby Gibson. Please give him a round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is enjoying their lunch. Food is tremendous. I would like to give honor to God, who is the Savior and the leader of my life, to Bishop Bailey, to all distinguished guests and honorees, or the one person that we're honoring today, Dr. Thompson. Dr. Foster asked me to come today and say a couple words. I'm not going to be long. Wasn't sure the program was going to still be going on, though, because of the snow. And so I saw somewhere around here Senator Doug McCauley, and so I'm drafting up something really quick. And before we get started, I'm going to ask Bishop Bailey if he would touch it, please, because I'm going to draw up House Bill number 1000, an act that we get no more snow. So maybe, Bishop, you can help us with that. I came here today to actually present you, Dr. Thompson, with something. I'll ask you to come up, please. Dr. Thompson, on behalf of the General Assembly, I would like to produce or present to you this official citation. This citation is from myself, and thank you. Guys, let you know he is my boss also, so I had to put my name first. Dr. Thompson, I'll have to ask also, Dr. Thompson and I share another bond besides education. We are a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Now would I ask the brothers in the room to please stand? On behalf of myself, Representative Brandon L. McGee Jr., Senator Douglas McCrory, and the Brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, we hereby present to you Dr. James Thompson, Bloomfield Public Schools Superintendent, in recognition of all the outstanding things you've done throughout all the years. Little be known, I read somewhere that the lifespan of a superintendent as far as working years is something like 3 years, 5 years, something like that. But you've been doing this for a long time. You've touched a lot of lives. So on behalf of all your friends, thank you for everything you've done. I'd like to present this to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is a surprise. I wasn't expecting this, so thank you very much. What a surprise. Great surprise.
And while we're at it, let me just give thank you to all of the Omegas who assisted this morning. Many have gone back to their livelihoods, but for those of you who are still here, please stand so we can give you a round of applause. Did a wonderful job. Just so that we get a broad span of those of us who came out today, I would like for all of the members of the clergy to stand. I can't call everybody's name, but I just want you to get an idea of clergy. And this is being filmed by Stan McCauley, and we will have it disseminated around the country. And to all of you that are here, you know Stan will make sure that it gets out there. And I would like to give special recognition to Ingrid Kennedy. Where is she? CERC. She is our Executive Director of CERC, the State Education Resource Center. The diversity that's here. Dolly McLean, the Executive Director of the Artist Collective. Dolly, would you give us a hand? And Jay Williams, our new president of the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. Let everybody know who you are, Jay. And I'm missing one person that I miss so much, and that was Dr. Louise Loomis. Many of you know her for critical thinking skills and so forth, but we hope that she's okay. But she was due to have been here. Now, we're moving right on with our program, and I know that we all want to hear our speaker, but this occasion, it's very simple. The Institute for Cross-Cultural Awareness and Transformative Education wants you all to continue this effort to collaborate with your local schools to build activities that can assist our children and families. And there are so many things that you are doing within your faith-based organizations that can be translated to the schools. And we want that effort to continue. That's the purpose for all of you being here today, to work to enable our children to realize their aims and aspirations. And I think that working with faith-based organizations, we can do it, because after all, religion was the first model for education and for schooling. And so we just need to go back to it and do those things that we all were taught to do. And I've been joshing a bit with our speaker, and he's not going to talk too much about where he grew up, but we have some fun with that. But I just want one more time, because we're talking about the interfaith, and many of you experienced a Hindu priest. He had to leave, Muslim imam, and I want to hold up to you Rabbi Dr. Carrie Tulin, just to have her to say a few words. You don't have many female rabbis, to my knowledge, and she's new to the area, and she's in Glastonbury, and we're just so happy to have her with us, and she's anxious to get to know all of you and get busy working with you. And this is quite an opportunity for her to do that. So please, come and say a few words to us.
Well, as I joked when we had our breakout sessions, when I say rabbi, I am not what you pictured, right? Yeah, I've been trying to grow a beard. So far, all I've managed to do is a little bit of a mustache. But no, actually, at this point, the Reform movement is the largest of the movements. It's the most liberal of the movements. And at this point, there are more than 600 female rabbis. And when you consider that in the field, actively working is somewhere in the 1,300 range for Reform rabbis, that means we are almost half of the rabbinate. We've been ordaining since the 70s, and so actually I'm not that unusual. Although maybe I am. But at any rate, I'm not what you were expecting. What I'd like you to do at this point for this invocation is to sit squarely in your chair, to really be fully present in this room, in this place, with this community, to be fully aware of both your body and what is transcendent, what is greater and more powerful and more important. What connects all of us together, what flows through you and flows through me and allows us to do things that surpass our understanding, our control, or even our imagination. You feel it. It's here. We name it in many ways. We have different ways of expressing it. We have different ways of accessing it. We have different ways of knowing it. But at this moment, we're all here, and we all know, and we all feel it. May you carry that energy with you into your work. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. And I'd like to call an excellent young man up who says that he can beat anybody teaching, anywhere, anytime. Douglas McCauley. Yeah, he said that, Ted. That was when he was much younger.
Okay, good afternoon. Woo. All right, so I have a award that I want to present to Dr. Surgery, Commissioner Surgery. And before I do that, I got to tell you a quick story. He doesn't know this, but first of all, Dr. Foster, you have some great minds in this room today. Trust me, you have some great educators in this room. I don't know how you convene everybody together at one time, but you have some very bright people who are really concerned about the education of our children in this state. I know many of them, and I know the hard work they do. This work is not easy, and Bloomfield should be very proud. They have this man as their superintendent. He does it the right way, and he's intentional about what he do. Again, you know, last night I came home, long day. Had a forum, 6 o'clock, you were there. After 6, I'm thinking it's over, I go to another meeting, 2 more hours about minority teacher recruitment, how we get more people of color in our classroom in front of our children. I thought it was gonna be 15 minutes, 2 hours. Go to an event, I get home at 10 o'clock at night, and for the first time, my wife looked at me. She said, "Why are your eyes so red?" I said, "I'm tired." And this work will grind you. But having things like this motivate you, make you want to continue on. Because if we don't, our children are going to be in some very, very heavy trouble. So real quickly, Dr. Surgery, come on up, brother. I want to present this award to you, but I'm going to tell you, one thing he doesn't know is he is the reason, no one knows this, he's the reason why I ran for office. I'm going to tell you why. He has been at the forefront of so many controversial issues in the state of Canada. Horton versus Mesco, Chef versus O'Neill. And the first time I ever, and Brother Foster, and everybody else that know the work we did in Hartford around educating our young boys, Artist Collective, Dr. Tucker, you know, we were educating these young black and brown boys at the highest level, competing with anybody. And at that time, we wanted to become our own charter school. And the district didn't understand our focus. The state didn't understand our focus. And if we were allowed to do what we wanted to do, our communities would be much different today. And everyone knows that. And we have the data and the children to prove it. But see, I went up to the Capitol for the first time ever. I was at a hearing. I didn't know anything about LOB, all that stuff. But they said, go up there. And you don't remember. And he was the commissioner of education at the time. And he came out in the hallway. This is not done, folks. People don't do this. No, it doesn't happen. And he said to me, I don't know if you remember, he said, I know what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Now, we didn't get our child or anything, but he was aware of the work that was being done to educate children in this state. So I thank you, because what I learned that day, that everything we do is political. Every move we make in this city, in our towns, our states, is political. And if you're not in the game, you can't change the game. So thank you for inspiring me to run for office. Come on over here, I'm gonna give you this presentation. It reads, the Institute for Cross-Cultural Awareness and Transformation Education, Dr. Surgery, the Howard Thurman Theodore Hesburn Humanitarian Award in recognition of his efforts in promoting diversity in education leadership. Presented today, April 6th, signed by Dr. Benjamin Foster Jr. Appreciate you, brother.
Dr. Foster said I had 3 minutes. My first remark is really to Senator McCauley, and it's a continuation of that thought I gave you in the hallway years ago, and it is something biblical. Let us not grow weary of doing good. Good will prevail. Now, of course, Winston Churchill stole that years later and made it never give up, and they've made movies about Winston Churchill. If you went to the movies in the last couple of years, and I kept thinking to myself, is it okay to take these great thoughts and make them your own? While I'm commissioner, I go out to Torrington for high school graduation, and they introduced me to a young kid who's like the youngsters who were singing, and the young people who were singing here today. Had everything, valedictorian, Eagle Scout, plays 3 instruments, 3 sports, everything. I meet him afterwards and I say, what's the secret to being you? You're a great young man at 18. He lost his parents at age 8 or 9 in a car accident, and his grandmother and grandfather raised him. Grandfather, tough old farmer, turns to the grandson at age 8 or 9 and says, work hard, that's it, work hard. Grandmother says, don't listen to your grandfather. Help others. He said, so I've spent since I was 8 years old thinking of only 2 things. Work hard, help others. So I have been milking that thought for something like 30 years at high school graduations. I even had the nerve at one event at a small high school in Bridgeport. It was small, they weren't paying me a lot, no big honorarium or a nice plaque. I thought, why don't I just say work hard, help others, and sit down? I did, and it was my greatest graduation speech. Beach balls, kids screaming. Now, of course, the principal looked at me and said, that's it? That's really all you're going to give us tonight? Work hard, help others. I've known Dr. Foster for a long time, and certainly everything he does represents that kind of attitude of continuing on. Let's not grow weary. Good will prevail. Today's sessions remind me also of the famous quote about no man being an island. We had some terrible incidents of bullying in the state while I'm commissioner, and at one point I must have written something about good character and caring about your neighbor, and the press called and said, sounds kind of religious. From a state commissioner of education, you're not supposed to do too much religious activity. I said, well, I was quoting famous people. No man is an island. Any man's death diminishes me. Ask not for who the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. And there was a large group of education organizations that said, we can do a better job with this. We can put young people, young men particularly, who engage in more of this bad behavior, in situations where they have the opportunity to show that they understand our dependence on each other. I want to thank the organization again for this honor. And I plan not to rest, but keep working on doing things that are very important. And hopefully the schools in this state will survive the snowstorm. UConn's lost to Notre Dame. And carry on with all the spirit that this state is famous for. Thank you very much.
And one of the dynamic religious leaders of the greater Hartford area is going to come forward and present an award to Charlene Russell Tucker. Reverend Dr. Donald Hamer. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Ben. I wasn't going to come forward after I heard one of the most dynamic religious leaders in the Hartford area. I came forward when I heard my name. Thank you so much for this honor. What an honor to be here today and to be part of the panel this morning and just part of this great day. In this world today, we know that we can't make it in silos. We know that we can't just have 6 hours of a school day for a child to be educated in and think that's going to do it. In Christianity, we have the notion of the body of Christ, that all parts, every person is necessary in order to make it a whole body. And every religious denomination and faith has a similar understanding of the holistic approach that we all need to take to live our lives in a healthy society, to support one another where everybody can achieve. Our next recipient has spent her career of more than 2 decades of working within the field of education to develop the entire child, body, mind, and spirit, recognizing that if a child cannot learn in a safe and nurturing environment, they're not going to have positive outcomes. And so I know you'd rather hear from her than from me. So with that, I'd call up Charlene Russell Tucker. The award reads, the Institute for Cross-Cultural Awareness and Transformative Education presents Charlene Russell Tucker the Mary McLeod Bethune Dorothy Height Human Development Award for dedication to the relevance of faith in the lives of students, parents, and educators for 2018. Congratulations.
To whom much is given, much is required. And Dr. Foster, thank you for recognizing the work, and I'm humbled and honored with the women who were attached to this award. They were innovators, they were legacy builders, and they were giant killers. I think of a song that the students sang. It was hard not to get up and join them. And to think about, I turned to my colleague and I said, so when you've had a hard week, picture a Sunday morning when you can talk about praising and killing giants, and it gets you ready for the next week. We recognize, as was said, and said so eloquently, that our students, they don't just come to school with their brains unattached to their bodies. And they are also part of communities. And recognizing in the state that we've got over 51,000 kids who are chronically absent from school, that's right now missing over 18 days in a school year. And we have close to 40,000 of our kids that's experiencing exclusionary discipline. We've got a lot of work to do. And we recognize that work is done inside and outside the schoolhouse doors. And the best happens when we all work together. And so it was 2008, Dr. Foster, and I have my colleagues in the room, when we decided that we needed to tap into the potential of faith to reach out to our communities. And we had our first conference, and Dr. Quinones brought me the agenda we had, Faith, Families, and Schools Connecting for Student Improvement. And actually we said in there, and I'll ask you if this sounds familiar, about closing a call to action to eliminate the achievement gaps. We still have work to do today, and I charge all of us in this space to think about the ladies who did such great work, and that they built a legacy. They didn't just talk about it, they did something about it. And so it's great to have vision because we know where there's no vision, the people perish. That's biblical, but it's also in a lot of leadership books, as you said, Dr. Sergi. But the idea of, so then what are you going to do about it? You heard this morning about the data on a great EdSite data portal. You now have the tool in your hands that you can advocate from whatever your sphere of influence for this work that needs to be done. And so get those profiles of your school. We can tell you, you can know the numbers of kids who are chronically absent in a classroom, in a grade level in your state, in your communities and in your districts. And so we cannot do that alone. And I thank you all. I see all the colleagues. Somebody said I have a cheering squad in this room. All our colleagues here. But the idea that it takes all of us together. In one of my favorite movies these days about the women, the figures, hidden figures, that's right. And one of the quotes is that we get to the peak together or we don't get there at all. And so I think maybe that's my cue that I need to stop. But I can really share with you that it is so important, though, you realize our kids, we need to unleash the genius in our kids. And they can all get there, but we can only do that if we do it together. Thank you so very much. And let's keep moving forward. We've got all these kids that they've got to reach their potential. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so very much. And so you know why Don Hamer introduced you. He is dynamic. And Don has an interesting, I want to tell you a little bit about him. He's so understated. But prior to coming into the priesthood, he was a practicing attorney, like Ted Sergi. So I'm always happy to be around attorneys. Isn't that right, Annette? All right. So we're going to ask that you remember to fill out the 2 forms that you have in the packet. Please do not forget to fill out the 2 forms and leave them on the table up front before you leave. One says, "Count me in." I need that. Now, without further ado, let me introduce to you one of the driving forces of this interfaith activity. He hails from the area known as Norwalk. The Reverend Dr. Lindsay Curtis. Lindsay is currently the president of the Connecticut Baptist Convention. He will come forward and introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Foster. Dr. Foster is, if he's nothing else, he is tenacious. I tried to slide out the back door on this effort, tried to slide out the front door, the side door, and he would not let me. And I want to say to you publicly, thank you for not letting me. I have been enriched by this day's activities, by the conversations and the presentations that have been made. It gives me an additional zeal. I've had it, and we too tried to start a charter school in Norwalk, and it didn't happen, but our advocacy has not stopped. Our black and brown kids need us, as well as all of our children. So thank you for not letting me disappear. What a day of dichotomy. Here we are in April. Just the other day when it warmed up, went out to the garage, dusted off my golf clubs, thought I'd be ready to play some golf, and here we are with snow in April. But what is real, and that is too, but what is real is that we have one of God's best. And I mean that with all B-E-S-T, all in caps, and our speaker and our keynote speaker for the day. I will not read all that is on his bio. I dare say that the majority of us, if we don't know Dr. Forbes, we've heard of him. If we've not heard of him, we know his work. He has certainly been one of the clarion voices in our modern time. He has traveled all over this world telling everybody about a living Savior. I have had the opportunity to hear him on several occasions, of which I think he's probably forgotten all of those, or some of them. But he came to Norwalk and he spoke at the George Washington Carver Children's Gala, and certainly excited us and encouraged us to do more for our children. I've heard him at the Hampton Ministers Conference in Hampton, Virginia, where he's excited that entire stadium with his words of wisdom, with his words of motivation, and his words of encouragement, and his exegetical words that remind us of the words of Jesus Christ. I even heard him, and I'm proud to say, at the Connecticut State Missionary Baptist Convention, where he came a couple of years ago and spoke for our social justice hour. You see before you his bio, but I want to call to your attention what's not in that bio, but is so timely for such a time as this, as we have what we have in the White House. Dr. Forbes is currently active in the revival, a time for a moral revolution of values, a national tour to realign morality in American politics and challenge leaders of faith and moral courage to be more vocally opposed to harmful politics that disproportionately impact the poor, people who are ill, children, immigrants, communities of color, and religious minorities. Dr. Forbes is joined in this revival by the Reverend Dr. William Barber II and the Reverend Blackman and Sister Simone Campbell. As Dr. Foster and Dr. Forbes were discussing, he is and hails from North Carolina. As we say in Grace Baptist Church, he's from those twin Kakalaki states. Dr. Forbes is married to Betty Franks Forbes, formerly of San Antonio, Texas. They are the proud parents of one son, James A. Forbes III, and two, I'm sure, wonderful grandchildren, Hannah Rose and James IV. I bring to you the one and only, the world-renowned Reverend Dr. James Forbes.
One of the things that God does to people who are introduced as important people is to bring them to important places that, in a sense, makes not really great significance of who he is, but when the place where you are is more significant than you are, that just humbles you a little bit. And such is the case here. Before I finish, you will understand that that's just not an introductory comment on the side. I want to thank Dr. Foster for your persistence. Dr. Curry, I experienced the same thing. When he's after you, he's the hound of heaven, isn't he? And like the royal mountie, he always gets the man or woman he's after. Unless they are weak, they got to respond to his constant call. When he's committed to something, he makes you think it is a significant place, and that you were diminished by not showing up to be a part of it. So I guess that's why you're here in the snow today. I'm happy and want to thank Dr. Curry for this introduction you gave me. And I didn't know you were sitting in all of those places you named, but I'm glad that you thought enough to consent to introduce me today. I'm honored and also appreciative of the fine work the Good Baptists of Connecticut are doing under your leadership. Thank you so very much. Now, you know, I do lots of speeches, but would you pardon me for not doing business as usual today? The event is too important for ceremonial proceedings as usual. I think that this is a kairos moment, a moment pregnant with possibilities we may not have imagined. So, well, there's one other thing I need to do before I proceed. Every time I'm present to preach and I have the honor of my wife's presence with me, I consider that a special blessing. Betty and I have been married for 53 years, and just to have her present with me makes me more whole than I would be otherwise. So Betty, please stand up so that I can tell them what you mean to me. And I'll do so that whenever my wife is with me, and this is not unrelated to what I'm going to be talking about. I usually like to say public, she's the cream in my coffee, the sugar in my tea, the sauce on my spaghetti, and the only fish in my sea. Sure enough. I am here. I want you to know I had my first opportunity to go to Saybrook because yesterday I was coming back from Memphis, where I was at the Hotel Lorraine in the commemoration of the martyrdom of Dr. King, and didn't get but a few hours of sleep, so I slept past New Haven. And they woke me up around about Saybrook. I had to get off, go back to New Haven, and then come up here. So I have to, if I'm a little lively, it's because when it's likely that I might go to sleep while I'm speaking, I counteract that by being lively to keep myself awake, okay? But I'm just coming back from Memphis. And I was given this message from Dr. King's spirit, which I want to use to begin my presentation today. And this presentation requires that somebody keep time on me because I'm likely to get carried away. So you just stand. When I have talked for half hour, will you just please stand up? Because I'm going to forget now. I won't remember. Don't charge me. I will forget. So when I've been up here a half hour, please stand up so I'll know my time is up. Before I get started, I have to create a congregation. Bishop, you know, even though it's down here, I want to think of this as a congregation, but I have to make it a congregation. So you all, I want you to help me. I want you to become a congregation. And we are interfaith here today. So here's what I want to do. I want to teach you a song. I want you to help sing it. and then I'm going to give the message that I've been given for this occasion. And the song goes like this. I'll sing it first, and then I'll ask you to sing it. We are one in your spirit. We are one in your love. Deep within, all around, below and above. There's no one anywhere that's excluded from your care. Thy will be done. So I'll give you the words, and then I'm going to ask you to sing it. We are one in your spirit. We are one in your love. Deep within, all around, below and above. There's no one anywhere that's excluded from your care. Thy will be done. We are one in your spirit. We are one in your love. Deep within, all around, below and above. There's no one anywhere that's excluded from your care. Thy will be done. Thank you. And now this message from Dr. Martin Luther King's spirit. Because he was in Memphis on Wednesday, April 4th. 50 years ago, he was shot. But God called him and said, Martin, there is a tradition in heaven that when martyrs have entered the pearly gates, 50 years from the date of their martyrdom, a special blessing is arranged primarily to show that they did not shed their blood in vain. So Martin, God says, I am using the occasion of the 50th anniversary of your martyrdom to announce the beginning of a century of the dream of Jubilee justice. And I am sending you back. They talk about the second coming of Christ. There's going to be a second coming of Martin Luther King Jr., not in body, but in spirit, to help kick off a century of the realization of the dream of Jubilee justice. So I am so humbled that I was given the privilege to bring a message from the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in his second coming. Yes, sir. I want to begin my presentation for this event today by I'll start out reading a word from Dr. King's spirit, addressed to Memphis on Wednesday. Friends, brothers and sisters of the world, fellow Americans, and citizens of the city of Memphis, thank you for gathering here at the National Civil Rights Museum and the Lorraine Motel to commemorate and memorialize the site of my transition from time to eternity. And he explained, in accordance with the wonderful tradition of heaven, that martyred souls 50 years from the date of their demise are granted a special wish to show that they did not shed their blood in vain. God has granted me a second coming to Memphis, not in the flesh, but in spirit. I am with you today. I hope you can feel the power of my presence and the strength of my prayers, that what happens in Memphis and all around the world today will prove to be a kairos moment towards the realization not of the dream I talked about in 1963 at the Lincoln Memorial, but of the divine declaration I am honored to announce on this historic occasion. Before I took the wings of the morning to begin my re-entry into time and space and search for the landmark of the mighty Mississippi and the royal city of Memphis, this is what the Great Spirit said to me. Martin, to honor your faithful, life-surrendering service to the cause of truth and justice, compassion and peace, heaven is arranging a dramatic, divine demonstration of power on earth. My spirit is launching the century of the dream of Jubilee Justice. Those who are willing to be a part of the dream team will experience the unmistakable evidence of what you used to call cosmic companionship. Anyone who is willing, and let me pause here to say that's why I'm here, Doc. Foster, you invited me for one purpose, but my real purpose today is to recruit people to be members of God's dream team for the dream of Jubilee Justice. So that you invited me for one purpose, but I am here to recruit every single person in this room to be a member of the dream team for a century of Jubilee Justice. Well, I guess that's why he said a century. It has taken several centuries to get the world messed up like it is. It may take another whole century to Jubilee. Rabbi, am I right? That at least one thing about the Jubilee. Number one, if you say Jubilee, you're thinking about, well, what was God's original intent? Jubilee, you think about, okay, so 50 years after seven cycles of release, a time when there is acknowledgement that the peculiar nature of anything finite is that without even trying, it drifts from what the infinite intent was in the beginning. If it drifts, even a spaceship has to have a mid-course correction. In the course of a century, God arranges Jubilee to put things back like they should have been to start with, to fix things up from having fallen out of the perspective that God had in mind in the beginning. Jubilee then is sort of saying, well, the word that we would use sociologically, it is social, economic, and political restructuring. It is restoring a more balanced arrangement to every situation in which God's people have found themselves. It's setting it right again, like it got broke, like a leg, and the doctor sets it before to put the cast on it again. Jubilee Justice is about the restoration of justice that's really right, so that we can begin to crystallize it as to an institutional form that sustains over time. I am here today to say that Dr. King is saying, y'all, things got messed up. And it's Jubilee Justice time to set them straight. I know it blows your mind to even hear that God thinks that God can take the world as it is and fix it back up so that it more nearly conforms to the dream God had the day of creation. But that's what Dr. King is talking about. And you, if it doesn't scare you to death, You, if it doesn't blow your mind, are invited to become part of God's dream team for helping to institute Jubilee Justice. Well, that's enough to read from Dr. King's letter right now. So I want to come to why I'm happy to be here. You know what? I'm a scientist. My degree from Howard is in chemistry. So I follow. If I read the New York Times, I always wait for the science section. Well, some years ago, Dr. Thompson, I was a chemist, not a physicist. But the physicists announced something. And I haven't gotten over it yet. They announced that the physicists had discovered, as they were searching for the elemental stuff out of which the universe was made, they found something that most people did not even know existed. They found, Doc, that there's some stuff called dark matter. And that there was more dark matter in the universe than all the other kind of matter that people already understood. That is to say, we didn't even know all that was, but that what was not known may be the source of the greatest potential of what is yet to be discovered.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See, when I found out, see, I didn't know where I was coming. I did not know the significance of why I would be here on this day, the day after I'd been down there with Dr. King. When I found out that the educational system of Bloomfield is predominantly dark matter. It means that the state of Connecticut, without even knowing it, has nestled up here in Bloomfield a concentration of stuff that which, if released to its fullest potential, will actually bring about a source of enrichment for the whole state of Connecticut. That which used to be despised and rejected and pushed aside, if educated properly, if restored to its full humanity against the brutalization of racist white supremacy ideology, if it is turned loose and set free and disseminated in a proportion that allows it to be a leaven in the lump of the rest of the humanity that's in this state, then the state will immediately have experienced some of that stuff they were talking about in the Black Panther, that stuff that has the capacity to heal, that has a capacity to release intellectual acumen that people never knew. I don't think most of the people in this room believe it. They don't believe that God's black stuff, when it becomes a leaven in the lump of humanity of the Homo sapien species, will bring what is necessary to deal with the presenting problematics that are causing the life expectancy in our culture to be declining for 3 years in a row. Madam Rabbi, If the United States of America could only believe in Joseph's saga. Joseph's saga in the 50th chapter of the book of Genesis has Joseph explaining to his brothers, don't be so nervous, y'all. They even lied on Father Jacob, saying he said before he died that we should ask you to forgive us. He ain't said no such thing. Suppose we could inform the NRA, National Rifle Association, to put out a memo because they have extraordinary capacities of communication. They commandeer all sorts of communication systems. If we could tell them to send out another memo to tell white people across the United States of America that they need not buy up all these guns to protect themselves, not against the redcoats from England. Ain't no more redcoats around here. And tell them they don't need to worry about the redskins because they've just about eliminated most of the redskins, and the ones that were left they put on toxic dump rapes called Indian reservation. Tell white people of the United States of America, we ain't stupid. We know that the guns are symbols of your protection against black folks. Not concretely. I'm not so sure that the sociological or the neurological examination would completely say white folks get guns because they're scared of black folks, but that's a major part of what's going on. And it doesn't mean they think it's a black folk gonna come and get them, but it gives them, it's a kind of security blanket. But it's a security blanket that is destroying their kids because more kids get shot from guns that are in the ownership of folks that thought they were having the guns to get against other folks. They end up killing their own folks. And in addition to that, tell white America that is scared of being afraid of black folk that should be the least of their concern. Number one, black folks who have been deprived of their humanity by the Constitution being 3/5 of a person on the basis of a compromise with the South so that their representation would not be unduly disadvantaged to them. Tell them that black folks have been denied their humanity by the culture, made 3/5 of persons. Then beyond that were made into chattel property. They were sold like things, like rum and molasses and sugar and cotton. But tell them, I'm not talking to you, Rabbi. Tell them, tell your white brothers and sisters that black folks are too busy looking for their full humanity. We mad by what y'all done to us. We didn't like it. It was a lie. White supremacy ideology was a lie from the beginning. And the whole structure of the United States of America is built on that assumption. Tell them we know that, but we're too busy. We're not coming after y'all. We're not worried about y'all. What we want for y'all is the fullness of your humanity restored, because when you took some of ours, you lost some of yours. Tell white people. Brother, I hope this is not politically inflammatory to the region that you're in here, but tell white people, we ain't worried about doing nothing to them. We want humanity. We want full freedom for them and freedom for ourselves. In fact, we would rather have them as neighbors than to have them as adversaries. But if only they could reach out and accept it. Well, really, basically, the reason I sat down is to kind of keep me controlled. The point I'm trying to make is, you, as the superintendent of a district that is predominantly black and Latino and some Asians around the side of it, if you get these people in here to determine that no stone will be unturned before you release the maximum capacity for the fullest restoration of the fullest potential in terms of the facilities that they're working in, the technical equipment they're given, the faculty that are going to teach them their stuff, and the curriculum out of which they will be taught. That if you are given the resources that you need in order to release these people fully, that you will have become a person who enables Connecticut to become a leader once again of the whole nation. That this little town in here, the educational system is different from the larger towns. I understand the statistics and all of that, but the point is, if you could get this crowd to decide that y'all are sitting on a gold mine, that the blackness all concentrated up in here, if set free, is the promise of a new American dream. Well, how much time I got? Let me go up here and tell you a little something about why we need to do this. The reason you need to do it is not because you're being nice. It's not because you're being kind. It's not because magnanimity has all of a sudden thrust itself into your spirit. It's because we are in trouble. Y'all remember Music Man? The Music Man said, my friends, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you're not aware of the caliber of disaster indicated by the presence of a pool table in our town. Yes, we got trouble. Yes, we got trouble with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool. No, it ain't pool. Let me tell you what the trouble is. You and I are living in a post-modern society that has a situation which I now, after having reread Ernest Becker's book, The Denial of Death, and Joel Cavell's book, History and Spirit, I now understand what's wrong with America. And I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you what it is. Listen, brother, your nation, the United States of America, is under the plague of the crisis of despiritualization. And if you're in the black church, I'd say, let everybody say, amen. But then I say despiritualization. Let me tell you what the symptomatology is that it has happened. Your nation and my nation, and I love America myself, I don't know about y'all, we have more disunity than we've ever had. More diminishment felt in more quarters than we've ever experienced. There is more anger and bitterness and hatred, and nobody can deny this. Stieglitz at Columbia University, nearby where I work, that the economic inequality has reached almost unbearable levels of tension. If you can't, listen, it can't get, the concentration of wealth in the hands of a few and the total impoverishment of the rest has reached a point where even you need chemical and physics to figure out how to keep that rubber band from bursting. It's going about as far as it can go. It can't get much worse without an automatic revolutionary conflagration. We are also at the lowest stage of international disgrace because people don't understand what's happening in Washington with the White House or up at the Congress. They don't understand what. And the social, economic, and political dysfunctionality is higher than it's ever been in your nation and in my nation. And the government paralysis is just pitiful. And in addition to that, we were in the midst of an opioid addiction and an epidemic of disillusionment, anger, fear, and despair. In fact, we are in as bad a situation as we were after 9/11/2001. Now, it's that bad. And the reason we're not going crazy is because we have numbed ourselves down to keep from panicking about the news we hear every night. When are they going to resolve that thing in Washington in regard to the president? And how many folks were involved in this thing? And what is Putin doing with Trump? And who else is in the global oligarchy of domination? I don't know. Ma'am, are you scared? I am. I'm a little scared. But the reason I'm kind of cool is because I took some pills. Keep me from being too bad. I don't know when the thing gonna break loose. I don't know what's gonna crack the dome. You know what I'm trying to say? That's why it's important for us to figure out we need to release some healing power. This nation needs some healing bad. Lord, oh Lord, how long before you're gonna break this thing through? We don't know. But the Lord reveals to me that there's some dark matter. Oh Lord have mercy. There's some little children that the Lord said, the reason I'm taking time is got to raise me up a tribe. The little white boys and girls in Parkland and the other black boys and girls here in Bloomfield and the grieving parents in Newtown and the Lord said, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. He said, now if you really want to help me out, take care of my children. So now I'm about to come in towards the heart of what I came here to talk to you about. If you all in this room, oh, by the way, despiritualization isn't a violation of church and state. Nah. Brother Curry, tell these people that the separation of church and state did not mean to separate the body from the soul. That's it. It basically, separation of church and state is to keep one religious tradition from exercising inordinate control of the others. It had nothing to do with religion don't matter. It doesn't even have anything to do that the people that are in office can't have any religion. It simply means you cannot use your religious perspective to moderate the power and significance of anybody else's perspective. And for that reason, separation of church and state wasn't about separating the soul from the body. It's separating one religious group from thinking it controls the whole body. Do you understand that? Okay, now I'm ready to kind of bring this thing in. I'm kind of ready to bring it in. I think maybe the best way to do this is to say that give me the youngest person in the room to come up here and stand with me. Who is the youngest person? Who's the youngest one? Look around. Who you think is the youngest person? Who you think is the youngest person? Have I got anybody in here under 20? Anybody under 25? Nobody in here under 25? Please, come. Anybody in here under 25? Come on, baby. Anybody under 25? Come on. Thank you. Thank you. 24. If this group would take all of the children under 24 and do the following, I think we might be used as part of God's dream team to help save the soul of Connecticut and of the nation. First of all, I have a little grandbaby. Her name is Hannah Rose. From the first time I held her, I sang a little song to her. And I think if I could get these people to get all the folks under 24 and teach them this song. It'll start things happening. Here's what I sing to Hannah Rose. I say, Hannah Rose. I hold her like this and I say, I made heaven so happy today, receiving God's love and giving it away. When I looked up, heaven smiled at me. Now I'm so happy, can't you see? I'm happy, look at me, I'm happy, can't you see? Sharing makes me happy, makes heaven happy too. I'm happy, look at me, I'm happy, can't you see? Let me share my happy, loving smile with you. Kiss little Hannah Rose. If this district would get parents to find a way to get their children together across the various ethnic lines and teach them that sharing with mutual respect for each other without regard for color, creed, or previous conditions of, and teach them to say, if people look like you and look like me, with people that look other than us, and we could all say, I'm happy, look at me, I'm happy, can't you see? Sharing makes me happy, makes heaven happy too. I'm happy, look at me, I'm happy, can't you see? And instead of holding my happiness to myself, let me share my happy, loving smile with you. Something of the philosophy of that song shared across racial boundaries, where all of the kids working together. So by the way, I'm not here to debate charter or public. Whether they charter or whether they public, maybe we need some inter-charter and public school relationship until charter school people are as dedicated to the perpetuation of first-rate conditions for public schools, and public schools understand the value of certain selective charter schools with specialized opportunity until they can be mutually invested, not in my getting the funds so that you can't get no funds, but to be mutually invested in I made heaven so happy today, receiving God's love and getting it away. When I looked up, heaven smiled at me. Now I'm so happy, can't you see? All right, maybe. All right, thank you. Secondly, not only must we teach all of these kids that you'll make heaven happy if you learn to share with each other. Education as isolated learners in a cubicle of privatized insight and information is not the educational model. It is the interactive model. Rugged individualism makes nothing but roots out of dry ground, even out of our young people. So second thing is we have got to care for these children. Just training their minds ain't enough. The other thing, when I was at Harvard I was a loose professor there for a while, and the Lord gave me this song, and I want to offer this to you. I looked around the other day and saw how truly blessed this life of mine has been. I have life, health, and comfort, peace and joy within, special care in times of desperation, a helping hand when friends are few. So I said, dear Lord, what can I do to turn some thanks to you? I expected mission impossible, a call to service far away, but instead this gentle assignment God sends to us each day. Love my children, that's all I ask of you. Love my children, that's the least that you can do. If you love them as I love them, we shall see them safely through. Love yourself, love me too. But whatever else you do, love my children. If parents and teachers and preachers and businessmen and neighbors, black and white and Latino and Asian, all of you said our job, not just to turn it over to the superintendent, but our job is to love these children. Love them out of some of their meanness. Love them out of some of their anxiety. Love them out of some of their neuroses. Love them out of their reaction formation in the light of the constancy of negation. Just keep loving them. Keep loving them. I mean, you got to double it now. I mean, don't expect it to happen right off. Don't expect it to be immediate, but just keep loving them. We'll do that. One last thing, and then I'm going to sit down. This is why you invited me. This is the last thing. You see, we get to the place that we ask, what do we need to do for our children? But guess what? God sees all of us as children. The parents, the county commissioners, the leaders of government, all of us are children. So what God says is, if I could just get each segment first to love itself. Stop, ma'am, don't, I can look at you and tell you are dedicated to children, but stop asking about the children. What the heck about you? What about loving yourself? Don't you understand that the Great Commission says, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, all thy mind, and all thy soul, and all thy strength, and thy neighbor as thyself. So it's got to be a three-pronged thing. Love yourself, love God, and love your neighbor too. See, if one of them won't do, I mean, in normal times, one might do. But in this crisis moment, you got to love yourself, love your neighbor, and love your Lord. That's what we call the platinum rule. The old golden rule was as you would do unto others, do also. But the platinum rule is love yourself, love God, and love your neighbor. Okay, if you do that, we got it. So here's what God says. Here's the way God says the reason the nation is, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm closing out. The reason the nation is out of tune is because the harmony is lost. Folks are trying to love other folk that don't love themselves. Or either they're trying to love themselves and can't love nobody else. So what the Lord says, tell them, I have placed a song of love in everybody. And if I could get everybody to release the song that's inside of them, and then everybody sing their song with each other, then we may save this nation from the destruction that's waiting right around the corner, y'all. Don't take me for granted. It's right. Anyway, so that's what you heard me say. Here's what the Lord says, and this I'm closing. Through this poem, and it says this, there's a song inside of me. I can hardly wait to see what it is I have to say or the music I will play. It's been so long in coming, first the thoughts, then some humming. But before I find my key, something stifles it in me. What keeps my song from being sung? Self-hurt, deep fears, a timid tongue. What makes my freedom come so hard? A self-made, live-in prison guard. Meanwhile, the song still groans in me. I can't be me until my song is set free. Debating, hesitating, getting ready to sing. The song could die like a stillborn thing. Release your song, said the Spirit to me. Be free. Be free. It's Jubilee. Cast out each fearsome song patrol. Proclaim deliverance to your soul. The Spirit of life now flowed through my blood. I said, yes, something broke. It came like a flood. Up from within and down from above. A kingdom built on the power of love. Thank God my song has been set free. The rhythm and the words are right for me. I'm finally ready to sing out strong. My soul is saying, this is my song. And if you got a kid, tell them, thank God my song has been set free. And the rhythm and the words are right for me. I'm finally ready to sing out strong. My soul is saying, this is my song. My soul has been set free.
Thank you so very, very much. Let's give him a big round of applause. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Now we're going to be wrapping up our program. If you just hang in here with us a little while, but before you leave, You have two forms in your packet. One is called the Interfaith Conference Evaluation. The other is called Count Me In. I need for you to do both of them for me and leave them up at the table on your way out. But wasn't that a wonderful message? And I would like to ask that the planning committee stand. Veronica, Dr. Marion, Dr. Agnes Quiones. We included Reverend Leroy Bailey III. He got the choir. Wasn't that a wonderful choir? A senior moment. Oh my God. Donald Harris and Dr. Martha Harris were also a part of that, and Dr. James Thompson. When we wanted to do this, the first person we talked to was Dr. Thompson, and he came right on board, just like that. And we thank him so very much. But that was the planning committee for what we have witnessed today. And I thank each and every one of you. Just all of you stand, those people who I call. The planning committee. Let's give them a big round of applause. Now, as I said, we're going to ask all of you to get involved with your schools. Get involved. The superintendents that are still with us or their representatives stand. Marion, I know Dr. Marion, you were one, and others, and we had Craig Cook and Terrell Hill, they left. We had many of, where's the Hartford person? Dr. Matos was here, and we had so many of the superintendents were able to come out today, and Sal Pascarella drove all the way from Danbury. And so we really are very appreciative of the superintendents and all of the educators that were able to come in today. And we thank you, and the Institute for Cross-Cultural Awareness and Transformative Education, known as ICUTE, will be in touch with you, and we'll be moving and planning. Dr. Quinones said, I got an idea. And so I'm sure that we're going to hear from her, and we want to thank CERC so very much and all of those who supported us for this endeavor. Now, we have the benediction to be offered, and where's the Imam? There he is. Let's give Imam Abdul Shahid Muhammad Ansari a round of applause. I forgot to do one thing that's very important for Dr. Forbes. Let me have the Raleigh people and Raleigh Connection people to please stand. These are the folks who went to school with your brother. Call it El Marie. And we're going to close with prayer, and we're going to recite the first chapter of the Holy Quran. We're going to recite it in Arabic, and then we will translate it in English. Will you bow your heads, please? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. We seek refuge in God from Satan, the rejected enemy. With God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. All praise is due to God, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer,
the sole judge on the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and your help we seek. Guide us on the straight path, the path of those whom you have favored, not the path of those who incur your wrath, nor of those who go astray. Amen. God bless you.
Is that all right, Dr. Brown Foster? Did we do all right? All right. All right, please, let us have the evaluation and the count me in sheet. And we just thank you all for coming out, and we pray traveling mercies for you as you return home. Thank you, Leroy. Appreciate you. All right, thank you all.